Good morning, Metalheads Internet. Welcome to a new episode of the Metal Meltdown, and today we're looking at a brand new album from Worm entitled Colony of Collapse. This is the fifth studio album from South Carolina grindcore band Worm, a band that I'm a little bit familiar with. I remember even reviewing some of their older records on Bring on the Metal many years ago, and I remember really enjoying those records. They weren't the most intuitive or original, but they were dark, they were vicious, and they did everything that a good grindcore record really should do, so I never really complained. Nor would I complain now if Worm chose to deliver that same type of experience through Colony Collapse. I mean, let's be honest, when it comes to grindcore specifically, more than any other genre, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. But I'm willing to bet that at this point they don't feel the same way. And I'm also willing to bet that they've been paying a lot of attention to the world of extreme music in the last 4 years since their last album, Heartache. And I'm especially willing to bet that Worm has been paying a lot of attention to everything that's been happening in America within the last 4 years. From systemic racism, to the power of religion, to the rise of Donald Trump and white nationalism and white supremacy and neo-Nazi movements, to the divisive nature of modern politics, the general unrest that resides within nearly every American citizen nowadays, regardless of where you stand on the line politically, gun violence, mental health, it's all here, it's all represented. And Worm uses all of this coupled with their particularly stark and violent brand of American death and grindcore to paint an almost apocalyptic picture in which America and the rest of the world is crippled by itself. A picture that, perhaps unintentionally, but nonetheless, is made all the more visible due to the circumstances surrounding COVID-19 and the collapse of the global economy. People are sick, people are tired, people are angry, people are anxious, people are scared. Even the most quiet and peaceful amongst us are growing more loud and more hostile with every day, with every hour at this point. And Colony Collapse isn't just aware of it. They feed off of it, and they translate it into perhaps one of extreme metal's most fascinating and cathartic albums of the year so far. And considering the fact that we've had some particularly timely releases already from a wide number of bands, that's saying a lot. Everything Worm communicates here feels important, powerful, even courageous. They're not interested in silent protests or Facebook campaigns. They're ready to drive a stake through the heart of Pennsylvania Avenue itself. And despite the inherently messy and chaotic nature of grindcore itself, everything has this oddly poetic flow to it. Everything feels really thought out. This isn't someone ranting on YouTube. This is someone pleading to Congress, pleading to the country. And they don't waste their time standing at the podium either. They jump right into it. Take, for instance, on opening track Walled Slum City, a song that describes neighborhoods across the country being crippled by poverty in their own government. With lyrics like young hearts buried in failing sand, heavy hands the head, as this road stretches our spirits thin, with engine lungs forever failing, outrunning poverty with you, outrunning loneliness with you, may death find us all, may its locust breath caress your cheek like old lovers do. Going on later, no savior for the children of Slum City, think of me as the wreckage, and our great nostalgia, the roaring ambulance outrunning forever. Or on something like Anti-Democracy Locust Breath, perhaps one of the most provocative and shocking cuts on the record, detailing someone's descent into madness and death through political radicalization and the feeling of abandonment. Detailed further through lyrics like by darkness radicalized, by loss made wild and blood drunk, to tear down democracy with a brick bat, to slit the throat of the plutocrat. Society is fucked and no one's got the fix. Snuff you out for just one more hit. Continuing later with this passage, the only way out, this gun in my mouth. Fuck cynicism, fuck nihilism. If I had heard somebody say that in real life, regardless of the context, I would call 911. Like, a lot of this feels and sounds like the kind of thing that the Joaquin Phoenix Joker would have written in his notebook. Or on one of my favorite tracks, My Fucking Dixie, The New South, in which Worm practically go to war with the South itself. With lyrics like, you won't resurrect those slavery chains, we'll fucking stop you, just let the old world rot with them goddamn grays, my fucking Dixie never gonna change until I curse my name, tear down every statue, New South gonna rise, class conscious with the demon in their eyes. challenging the South's abhorrent love of Confederate history and their complicity in systemic racism and oppression. These lyrics and many more across the record go far beyond the political shtick that bands sometimes inject into their music. They're not boiling down their rage and fire to politics bad, or Trump bad, or war bad. They're challenging America to see who they are and what they've become. They're inviting America to debate them in some sense. And Worm's impatient, uncompromising, and hostile brand of American grindcore makes everything feel all the more poignant and effective. Take, for instance, on the track Thorn Palace, a claustrophobic number that launches into one of the most vicious breakdowns I've heard on a record in recent memory within its final moments. Or on the track Tank Reaper, which pairs explosive blasts of crusty power violence with some of the slime and ooze expected of brutal death metal. Or on the biblically nightmarish closing track, Angel of Assassination, which contrasts bold, dynamic riffs and hyper-explosive bursts with anxious white noise and the fluttering of a literal locust swarm in its final seconds. The latter of which literally gave me goosebumps. I may not be a very religious man, but I promise you I do not underestimate the significance of a locust swarm, particularly in these troubling and confusing times. I love the atmospheric component of this record well. There are a lot of subtle things across the record that do such a great job at adding to the disarray and confusion of Colony Collapse without robbing it of its brutality and without making you think too much. Take, for instance, some of the strings littered across the record. Take, for instance, some of the voiceovers, some of the voice samples as well, and the use of static and white noise as an actual instrument. There are even multiple moments where static fills the role of a rhythm guitar. And in true grindcore fashion, the album wisely wraps up at a sharp 26 minutes. It's not uncommon for grindcore albums to be somewhat short in comparison to full studio albums, but I think it's particularly important for an album of this particular nature to be on the shorter side, as the hyper-political and bloodthirsty grindcore of a band like Worm would only grow to be pretentious, annoying, obnoxious, and tiring over the span of 1 hour, regardless of the quality of the songwriting and performance. I'm really blown away by this record. I mean, as I said before, I have enjoyed previous records from Worm, but as much as I enjoyed them, I didn't pretend that they were anything more than really dark, but ultimately somewhat generic as far as songwriting and production goes for grindcore. This, on the other hand, is way more motivated, way more violent, way more ambitious, way more political, way more venomous from start to finish. It is the smartest and most vicious grindcore album of the year so far. It is a contender for album of the year, in my opinion, and with that in mind, happily giving this the most enthusiastic 4.5 out of 5 I could possibly conjure. This isn't just a must-have record for anyone who even casually enjoys grindcore and extreme music. This is an album that people brand new to this genre need to sink their teeth into ASAP. Because I can't really think of another album out there right now that so perfectly demonstrates everything that makes grindcore such a powerful, articulate, and wonderful genre. I have said for years now that grindcore in the right hands can be far more than just a collection of noise and riffs. It can be this wonderfully expressive and even progressive genre. It can be a blank canvas for an artist to paint as they see fit. And it's clear to me now that Worm see grindcore in a very similar fashion, as they have used their blank canvas to deliver Colony Collapse, a repulsive, honest, unabashedly violent, and stunning portrait of America itself. What more can I really say about this album, man? It hits harder than a sack of bricks and spits facts faster than Bernie Sanders after a few too many cocktails. 4.5 out of 5. Go check this thing out. And that is it for the Metal Meltdown. I'm not an expert, nor do I claim to be, so what do you think? Do you like this record? Do you not like this record? And what do you want to hear from me next? And thank you for watching. Make sure you press subscribe right there in the middle of the screen so you get updates on the Metal Meltdown immediately, and you have yourself a fantastic fucking day.